I call to order the Gladstone City Council meeting for July 9th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. Hello, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July. The police and fire department put on a community barbecue that was absolutely amazing. There was so many people that came. The enthusiasm was just wonderful. And today's National Sugar Cookie Day, and normally I would make some for everybody, but I think I'm in a cookie-making coma from the barbecue, so I'm not going to do it this year. So tonight we're going to be starting with two presentations, the proposed new county courthouse and Clackamas County Social Services for Seniors. Our consent agenda includes approval of the June 11th, 2019 regular meeting minutes, approval of the May bank balances, budget report for period ending May 31st, 2019, approval of May check register, legal costs on projects, department head monthly reports for June 2019, approval to extend the library director services, and Resolution 1164, a budget resolution for self-contained breathing apparatus, also called SCBAs, equipment for the fire department. Our regular meeting agenda includes an intergovernmental agreement, an IGA for the Tri-City Good Neighbor Program, Gladstone Police Association, also called GPA, collective bargaining agreement, an intergovernmental agreement with Metro for regional illegal dumping patrol program for unlawful campsite cleanup, and retiring the Gladstone Police Department public policy on policing. I would also like to mention the items we will be discussing during business carried forward are coffee with a counselor, change of time for traffic court, City of Gladstone City Attorney Services, Oregon State Marine Board dredging grant conversation, and 4th of July debrief. Tammy, could you please call the roll? Counselor Ripley?
Yes.
Counselor Neese?
Yes.
Counselor Tracy?
Present.
Counselor Reisner?
Present.
Counselor Todd? Counselor Mercero?
Here.
Mayor Stemple? Here. Could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any agenda additions or corrections? Actually, yes. Additions or corrections?
I believe you got them all under business carried forward, so we are good. Thank you.
Okay, so the first item, which I didn't mention, I'm sorry about that, is introduction of our new employee, Christy Walls, who's our Police Department Executive Assistant.
You can stand right there.
Perfect, everyone. Counselors, Madam Mayor, Christy Walls, she's our new executive assistant. I want to read something to you. I took some notes for us. I wanted to get this right. Christy's been with us for now, this is her third week, essentially, and doing a fantastic job. But in 2006, she started with Multnomah County as a records clerk. In 2007, moved to Fairview as a records technician. In 2012, she became the administrative assistant to the chief of police at Fairview. But in 2017, Multnomah County took over policing for Fairview, where Christy was moved to the records manager position. Christy is currently married to her husband, Eric, who is a middle school teacher in Gresham, and they have 3 children together, 22, 25, and 32 years of age. Some of Christy's hobbies: beekeeping, likes to garden, and loves to travel and spend time with her family. By far, Christy is a great addition to the Gladstone family, and hands down, my best hire. We're really excited to have Christy, and she's doing a fabulous job. So when you see her, please say hi, and she'll be around, and feel free to stop in the police department and visit what they do. So,
all right, welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll go on to our first presentation, which is on the proposed new Clackamas County Courthouse.
Good evening. Good evening. Okay, should I
kick her off, Judge?
Yeah, go ahead.
All righty. Good evening, counselors, Mayor Stempel. It's great to be here today with see such friendly faces. I'm Clackamas County Commissioner Martha Schrader, and I'm joined tonight by Presiding Judge Kathy Steele of the Clackamas County Circuit Court. And it's our pleasure to speak with you today about our efforts to replace the Clackamas County Courthouse and the overwhelming need for it. Judge Steele will actually speak to you in just a moment with our accompanying, we hope, a PowerPoint presentation. But I wanted to open our remarks by underscoring just how important a priority this has been for the Board of Clackamas County Commissioners. Obtaining funds was our top priority this past legislative session, and it wasn't just one of the top, it was essentially our #1 priority. And there is good news on that front, which I'll share once Judge Steele is done with her remarks. But I wanted you all to understand your Board of County Commissioners, all 5 of us, are extremely committed to seeing this project through. This has been a long time coming. Since I've been here since 2003, it has been talked about, and through the years we have not only talked about it, it now appears as if it's going to come to fruition. Our path towards the goal has taken several different turns, as any kind of a construction or capital project often does, but we're moving forward. We're dedicated to see this project become a reality and ultimately serve all of our county residents, including the fine city of Gladstone. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Judge Steele, who will just detail the many reasons why we actually need a new courthouse.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the presiding judge in Clackamas County, and our current county courthouse, which is on the corner of 8th and Main Street in downtown Oregon City, was built in 1936 when we had about 50,000 people in Clackamas County. It was built basically with one courtroom and a bunch of other county offices located in that courthouse. Right now, no other county offices are there except for the circuit court itself and the district attorney's office. We have 11 courtrooms crammed into that building, and we have nowhere else to put anybody else. It is basically everywhere in there. Interestingly enough, okay, if I
on the side, you'll need to turn it on.
No. Yeah,
Other side.
you
Other
get
side.
This side?
Yep.
Oh, that's all right. Let me see if I can.
Where's the teenager?
Yeah, where's the
Man, I do
Absolutely.
not. Oh, look at that.
there
There
you
we go. Okay, that's our courthouse. Okay. The point of this is, given our current size of more than 419,000 people in Clackamas County, we should have 14 judges, but we can't. We don't have room for them, so we have 11. And because our demand for judges and for getting stuff done in the county, in the court system, is so high right now, we've outgrown the current facility, and it's insufficient to meet the needs of our residents. Because we only have 11 instead of 14, we are delaying justice in Clackamas County. Specifically, parents are waiting much longer than they should for child support or modification of visitation or custody hearings. Civil trials are being scheduled out 1 to 2 years. Criminal trial, we have the 6th biggest criminal docket in the state of Oregon, but our continuances are beyond our recommended disposition dates that we are accountable to for the state of Oregon and the Oregon Justice Department. And it is expensive and traumatic to lots of participants and to lots of litigants to have to get a continuance. If I don't have enough judges, and I'm the one that's assigning cases to courtrooms for tomorrow, okay, we're putting a whole bunch of different cases in one particular courtroom in front of one judge, and a bunch of those are going to get bumped. They're just going to get bumped because we don't have enough judges to proceed. We have security challenges because of the current courthouse, right? The way it was built, when you walk in and you go to a courtroom, you are sharing a hallway with all the litigants, all the potential, for example, in a criminal case, the defendants are coming in and they're with the sheriff deputy and they're in handcuffs and they're going right past the victims and they're going right past the witnesses, and as are ultimately the jurors that come in as well. In a new courthouse, as is recommended in every other place in the state, in the country, we have special quarters for the litigants, but a different place for the victims to wait. We have a different quarter for all the judges and the employees to go through, and we have a different quarter and place for all the criminal defendants who are in custody to go as well, so they're not out in the hallways basically rubbing elbows. A lot of the courtrooms, my courtroom right now is only about 850 square feet, all right? I mean, that's it. And when a victim comes in from the back of the courtroom to go up to a witness stand, they are basically that far from where the defendant sits and where the jury sits. And they are within touching distance of that person, and that is not a comfortable place for a victim to be. And so it is recommended that, and we plan for our new courthouse to have courtrooms that are at the minimum of about 1,600 square feet, because you're not right on top of everybody else. So we have security challenges because of that. We are hoping for and planning for separate circulation patterns. The judges and staff right now enter and exit through the same hallways as the litigants, okay? And the jurors are not in our current courthouse. They're across the, what do we call it? The,
Courtyard.
I'm not sure.
what?
The courtyard.
Yeah, the courtyard. Across the courtyard in the Holman building. They're over there, and so they get to come out when they're called then with umbrellas that we give them. We have a whole bunch of umbrellas, and they come and stand in line waiting to come through security. And the new courthouse will have room for the jurors to be in, so they don't have to stand in the rain or the snow or whatever. Now, one of the important things that you should consider is, notice these are some of the things that we're concerned about. We know that we're planning on putting in space that the county already owns, the new courthouse up on top of the hills in red soils. It's in between the Public Services Building and the Development Services Building. It basically faces Mount Hood and the big courtyard right now that's in between them. It's also right next to the social services. They're up on the hill, unlike where we are now. It will be arranged for improved access for people with disabilities and seniors, all right? And that will be helpful very much. Also, this talks about our process. I want you to know that, and I brought with me, you're going to love this one. Folks, one of the problems of the courthouse is that, one, the current courthouse is not built on bedrock, nor is it attached to bedrock. In fact, it is on dirt that we know will liquefy in a good shake. And amazingly enough, if any of you have been close to the courthouse, you will note that it is not a McLaughlin that goes past the old courthouse is at that portion on a bridge. Right below that is the Willamette River. And the courthouse is basically about 100 feet, 100 feet down the embankment from the edge of the courthouse to the Willamette River. Now note, this is the edge of the courthouse. It's lovely. It's right below my office. But this is how far it is, a yardstick, to the edge of the embankment. And the significance of this picture, which was taken about a month ago, is we've lost another 6 inches in October. Wow. This thing is now sticking out over this, and if you look If you were standing right there and looking down, you'd be looking 100 feet down into the Willamette River. And we don't know how, you know, when I started practicing as one of the judges in Clackamas County 12 years ago, it was 10 feet high. So we're in a hurry. we're frankly, you know, the whole earthquake thing that happened in California this last week set everybody in the courthouse into a tizzy. But anyway, so that's another reason that we're concerned about the public safety, about our current courthouse. So, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, well, thank you, Judge Steele. One of the things I want to emphasize, colleagues, is that this has been on the books for a while. This has been a part of the master plan since before 2003. It's been on the books, and as you can see now, we are at the point where it is actually quite dangerous to have this land just slowly slipping away into the river. I myself have been a victim of theft and had to go through the court system in the courthouse. It was a very, very difficult experience. I know, Linda, you and I have talked about that. A young man with an opioid addiction. Actually, I was a victim of theft, and how difficult it was for me personally to be in the same, such close proximity to him. It's a very, very uncomfortable experience because you're feeling victimized, you're feeling like someone had betrayed you. On the other hand, since it was also a result of opioid addiction, the only way to get this young man help would have been to get him prosecuted and in the system, which has happened, and he's gotten the help he needs. But for me personally, how uncomfortable that was, because this was someone I trusted, this was someone who I believed was a friend, but addiction does things to folks. So hence the proximity, I hope, with the new courthouse to the services that are necessary. Also, on a personal level, I have a daughter that's a prosecutor in Massachusetts, not here, but I have to tell you, I would be extremely worried as her mother if I knew that she was working in a facility like this where any even minor shake could put her in peril with the rest of the offices. So I guess I'm just saying, for me, it's a little bit. I got some stories here, some history that one of the reasons why I think this is so important. And the good news is the legislature has also seen this for our county as a top priority. They have approved $31.5 million, and this funding, however, is contingent upon securing matching funds for the project. So that is our next challenge. I'm not going to call it a hurdle. I think it's very doable, but it's going to be a challenge. We're exploring various funding options, which may include a voter-approved bond measure, and I'm using the word may. We're looking at public-private partnerships. We're looking at various funding mechanisms. This will be a tremendous accomplishment. It's been years in the making, and now it's time to move to the second phase of the project. The first phase was the planning. We assessed the existing courthouse, as Judge Steele just eloquently spoke about, and saw how dangerous, frankly, it is. We determined our future needs. We began our initial relocating of some county operations to accommodate a new courthouse on our campus in Oregon City. We'll use the new money to do a design and pre-construction phase. That'll complete all the preparation work on the red soil site, contract with an architectural firm and engineering. The design alone will take at least a year to develop. We'll contract with a construction firm and then complete several pre-construction requirements. So a couple of years from now, knock on wood, and I'll still be here, I hope, because I love my job and I love the county. We expect to initiate the final phase, construction and relocation. We'll construct a new facility, and we'll determine the future of the current courthouse. Anything that has to be done down there will probably have to include some significant stabilization, I would suspect. A growing coalition is supporting our efforts, and one of the reasons we're here tonight is to ask you to be part of that coalition. This is a big ask. We're reaching out to the public. We have our elected county officers, our judges, our state senators, our representatives, and you, we hope, our city officials, because we're going to need you as community advocates to move us forward. We're organized. We are our evidence that we are trusted by the legislature, that they have said, yes, we believe you can move this project forward. We're serious, we're prepared, and we have already invested millions in prep for the project. We own the land for the proposed site, number one. Number two, I've already mentioned we've had a master plan that's been on the books since I've been a commissioner. We have the utility infrastructure already in place. So we're primed and ready to go with some significant pieces of this. We've got a planning design team, and we have an in-house project manager overseeing the nearly 20 sub-projects associated with the courthouse replacement. We're pretty far along in really trying to make this the kind of facility that is safe for our citizens, safe for our judges, safe for the victims, safe for people who have perpetrated a crime and need the help that they need to be rehabilitated. And we'll see if indeed a bond measure is in our future, and if so, that would be next year. So I hope we've effectively communicated all this. Thank you so much, Judge Steele. You're pretty dynamic. I'll talk with you later.
Any questions? Any questions?
Oh, I've got a couple, if I may.
Yes.
So you talked about already doing some planning.
Yes.
We need 14 courtrooms now.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you've got in the plans that actually may have like 20
The
being
space
built.
plan we have is for 16 with room for 4 more that we could build on top of one wing.
Mhm.
Okay?
So-
Eventually down the road.
Right. And then the location is in the current courtyard
Yes.
between the two buildings.
Yes.
If you
Is
look
that
at
the
this
plan?
Back where the field is.
Yeah.
Right here is the Public Services Building. This is when actually the Development Services Building was built. And that's
right.
where, right there, and there is
Right.
your courthouse. The
Right.
new courthouse will be there.
Right there.
Oh, okay.
Be the third.
Oh, okay.
basically, Where
Yeah.
the road.
So it's not going to be actually in between, it'll be back off a little bit.
It'll be on this side.
Sure.
Okay?
Where all the parking is.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Well,
There'll
there's
be parking. There'll be parking.
Wait a minute.
Where all the car parking is.
On this side, there will be parking on that side and that side, and eventually it could go up. Okay?
Mhm.
So that's what we're planning.
Okay.
And if Commissioner Humberston would hear, he'd be talking about cross-laminated timber
Of
right
course
now,
he
but
would.
we're
Yeah.
not going to.
Oh, they're building a beautiful one down on MLK
Yeah.
near Hawthorne?
It's Taylor.
Oh, Taylor. I
Yeah.
just drove by there yesterday, and I just hope they don't cover up much of it. It's
Pretty.
It is.
That's included in our
yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
So, and then Martha, you mentioned about a matching. Are they the state asking that we match dollar for dollar? So we got to come up with 31
There
mil?
is a statute that says that the state of Oregon will pay 50% of our construction costs.
Yes.
Okay.
If we put some state agencies in there, which for us is the District Attorney's Office and OPDS, the Oregon Public Defense Services. So and DHS, we're going to have space there
Sure.
for them, okay, and on the first floor of one of the wings.
Yeah.
So we will. It's
Which is exactly what's happening with Multnomah County in downtown Portland. That
Yeah.
big one going up on the side of the Willamette River.
Mhm.
Yeah, and our DA, if you've ever seen his digs, they're pretty, it's hard
What,
as
what's
well.
that?
If you've ever seen, his facility has been subpar for years, too. Our DA.
Oh, yeah. No, I've been down in the
Yeah,
basement.
you've been down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a basement. It's scary.
Yeah.
Any other, yes?
So, Commissioner, I'm assuming that the bonding would be the last resort on the financing
Yeah.
plane?
I think so. We've looked at it. We're not sure right now that that is something that people may want to move forward with. So we're also investigating what would be a public-private partnership. Yeah, to kind of move it forward. But we haven't ruled anything out yet because
Not
we
at this
can't
point.
really. But
Right.
that definitely, the public-private partnership seems to be getting some legs to it.
Okay.
And there's a couple of jurisdictions around the country that have utilized that and been very successful with it.
Okay.
So we're exploring those right now.
I mean, it's just what I'm seeing is like if you get extended on that and you're relying on the bond and there's bond fatigue,
Yeah.
which there
Right.
probably will be.
Although I can
Not
tell you right
already.
now, that if we went to the voters of Clackamas County and said, hey, we want you to pay for all of Clackamas County's share of this, okay, for a $300,000 house, the tax cost would be the equivalent of a Starbucks
It adds up.
latte per month.
I understand
And
that,
that's
Your
just
Honor,
for
but
the courthouse.
it adds up,
That's
and
what
we
it
have
is.
to be.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed it does.
You know,
Which
'cause
is
you
why
got-
we're looking at all the other avenues.
Good, we
Okay.
appreciate
Because you got
that.
metros wanting to,
I know, but
There's lots of layers.
right.
There is Here Together that's looking at another kind of opportunity for wraparound services for houselessness. So the commission is aware of that. So we're looking at every possibility.
We have 130 to 140 people that work in that building every day.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You guys need a new building.
I
Oh, yeah,
need-
no, yeah.
That's not,
Yeah.
we're convinced.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you
All
very,
right.
very
Thank you
much for coming. They're
I don't know,
they're
are we?
presentations. We usually
No, I don't think so. We're just a presentation, but I'm going outside.
But yeah, you can go talk around there. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next presentation is Clackamas County Social Services for Seniors.
So, we'll have a couple more chairs. Okay, great, thanks.
She's not shy. She's not shy.
Oh, no, not Judge Steele.
I don't think I want to be in Susan's office.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Or in court.
Unless it's a good day.
Yeah, unless you're on the right side.
Well, yeah. She got her courthouse.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Thank you so much for allowing us some time on your agenda this evening. My name is Brenda Durbin. I am the Director of Clackamas County Social Services. I'm here today with Colin Black, who is your wonderful Senior Center Director, and two members of the Aging Services Advisory for Clackamas County, Eric Olson, the Chair, and Mike Foley. So we're here tonight to talk about, to speak to the need for all communities to prepare for the coming demographic changes and to move towards creating age-friendly communities. Gladstone is very fortunate to have a senior center that provides many resources that support older adults. In just a 9-month period from July of 2018 to March of this year, the Senior Center provided over 1,500 rides to older adults and people with disabilities, nearly 600 meals at the Senior Center, and 477 home-delivered meals. And this is while they're going through all the challenges at the Senior Center. I imagine those numbers would be a little bit higher if everything was in ship-shape shape. Clackamas County is really proud to partner with the Gladstone Senior Center. In our role as the Area Agency on Aging for the county, we're able to pass through federal and state funds that help to pay for some of these critical services. Places like the Senior Center are going to become even more vital community assets as the population ages. We did a little bit of research between 2010 and 2017. The population of Gladstone increased by 439 residents. 76% of that growth occurred in the age group of people aged 65 and older, and we certainly don't expect that trend to change anytime soon. Over the past several years, members of the Advisory Council have reached out to communities throughout the county to raise awareness about the demographic changes that are occurring and encourage communities to prepare the physical, the social, and the support infrastructure that will help ensure that everyone can meet their basic needs and fully engage in community life. I'll ask Eric to talk about some of the features that make a community age-friendly, and then Eric and Mike will both share a few personal experiences that will help illustrate the need to develop these infrastructures. And while our focus is on older adults and people with disabilities, it's important to remember that an age-friendly community is a community that welcomes people of all ages and abilities. So I'll ask Eric to say a few words about what makes a community age-friendly.
Hi, everyone. I don't have any fancy photos of, earth dropping and buildings falling down, but age-friendly community really is as it sounds. It is an inclusive, all-inclusive community. I was thinking back when the judge said, when that courthouse was built in 1936 or whatever it was, and there was 50,000 residents in this county. Those communities at that time were age-friendly because you aged in place. I remember growing up in a community where, as as I got older into high school, there were new young children coming along, and 2 houses down, that family was having kids, and they were coming up. So there was this constant change of children, but the parents, aged in place. And we were fortunate enough to allow my mother to remain in her home until she was 94, when she passed away. That doesn't happen all the time. But it did because of the supports in the community, much like the supports that you have in this community, some that come right out of Mr. Black's Senior Center, home-delivered meals, which is a pretty vital piece to services for the elderly and aging. The other things that features or pieces of the puzzle have to do with sufficient housing, affordable housing that is safe and close to services in the rest of the community. I noticed there's a lot of single-family homes as I drove over here, and you're in this part of the community, and that there's sufficient home maintenance and support services available in communities. Same for this term is batted about a lot and has a lot of different connotations, but sufficient and affordable housing for frail and disabled older people with appropriate services that are provided locally. So that's a piece to it. Transportation. We look at public transportation costs are consistent and clearly displayed and affordable, that it's reliable and frequent both at night and weekends and holidays. Transport stops and stations are conveniently located, accessible, safe, clean, well lit, well marked, adequate seating, and at all. We look at social participation. I would bet that you had a wide variety of ages that came to or are coming to the barbecue or have come, and will continue to come because it's an important piece of the community fabric that you have here. So events and things and activities that are accessible, well lit, and easily reached by people who are challenged with mobility. Good information about that. Where do they find it? Things like that. So websites and what have you that may be sponsored by the city. There's a lot about respect and social inclusion in an age-friendly community, and that older people are regularly consulted by public, voluntary, and commercial services on how to serve them better. I think that oftentimes I know as I am in the process of aging and have reached that wonderful age of post-65, that often I'm not consulted on things and not asked for whatever reason, and I have a hunch that it has to do with the gray hair and my gray mustache. Older people, also we like to talk about older people being recognized by the community for their past as well as their present contributions. There's a lot that people put into their living situations that are important in neighborhoods. It also talks about having an adequate range of health and community support services for promoting, maintaining, and restoring health. Home care services that are available include health and personal care and housekeeping, and community emergency planning takes into account the vulnerabilities and capacities of older people. These are features that we prioritize, or some, not all, but some, that we prioritize, that we think, based on World Health Organization age-friendly community parameters, and other information we have culled from various sources across the country through different area agency on agings and other entities, that these features that we were talking about and have distributed are the ones that are important, kind of capture the flavor of what a community would look like. I have a hunch that quite a lot of your community looks just like what I've described. And we're not here to ask for a bond or money, so
Thank you.
Rest easy. We're really not whatsoever. We only ask that these things, one thinks about some of these things, as you move forward. Presume that you are constantly reminded of it in your work, counselors, and the mayor for the city. So I want to thank you for my time on that. A couple of quick pieces here, and Mike will be up next. One of the other components, we don't talk a lot about it at this stage, we hope to, is universal design. So that means a lot of things to a lot of people. But for me, in the last 7 years, 7 years, I have had 7 back surgeries, and I just had a knee replaced, and I'm headed to get the other knee replaced in about 4 weeks. And I am so very grateful that I have a single family home on one level, and that I have one step to get in the house, that I can negotiate the hallways. Although it's a 1968 ranch home, I could still negotiate the hallways with a walker and a four-wheel walker in and out of the bathrooms, because I made a point of putting in new toilets, ADA height toilets, and I widened all the doorways in the house, all 9 of them. So, you know, I'm really grateful. Just as an aside, I lived in 2-story homes, had a lovely log home when I lived in Wisconsin. I would nowhere near have had the ease of movement as I did in the house that we currently have. We live out in the country. We have horses, so there's other things to be concerned with. But I can tell you that that really brought home to me the importance of looking at the broader concept of universal design, that it's good for everybody. And it does not just for the elderly and disabled people or someone who's had multiple surgeries. It's good for kids, it's good for teens, it's good for parents, it's good for the elderly. It's inviting, it's inclusive, it's easy to access. I changed all the door handles. They all are levers. There's no more twists in place. So that's just on a personal note, and I'm going to end with that and turn this over to Mike.
Thank you, Eric. I have a great affinity for Gladstone. I don't live in Gladstone, but boy, I'm close. I live, and I'm telling you this for a reason, on the top of Jennings Avenue between Oatfield and Webster. And I'm in the Gladstone School District. The 3 kids who grew up next door to me, I can't tell you how many track meets I came to, and how many graduations, and how many Chautauqua princesses that we came to watch. And then a little over a year ago, I wandered into a coffee talk that you guys put on, and Jackie and Tammy were so welcoming to me, and we talked about lots of different things. And I ride TriMet Lyft. I got here early today, and Jackie spent some time with me, and I'm going to be downstairs in the ADA Center to watch the rest of the meeting, because when my lift truck comes at 8:30 to 9 o'clock, they give you 5 minutes to get there, or they leave you. So I'm not sure I can negotiate those stairs in that time. Jay, I'm going to talk a little bit about transportation, because that's a big deal to me and to many seniors. You know, the largest population growth in our county is the 85-year-olds and older. Wow. And a lot of those folks are dependent upon public transportation, or soon will be. And I know that your senior center provides rides to medical appointments and some of those things for some of those members. We have in the county our Transportation Reaching People service, which is just so busy that about all they can supply are medical rides. They run 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. That's all the money that we can afford, and number of volunteers is never as much as we would like to drive people around. You know, public transportation, Eric and I both serve on TriMet's Special Transportation Council, where we work with Multnomah and Washington County on allocating money from the state to here in Clackamas County. We have 7 different transportation units from Wilsonville to the Mount Hood Express. And we try and we never have enough money for those. The closest bus stop for me is down at the bottom of the hill on Oatfield on Jennings. 15 years ago, I got hit by a car going down to the bus stop, so I signed up for TriMet Lyft because I don't want to get hit anymore. And Jennings, as you guys know, probably has no sidewalks and whatever, so when a car's coming at you, you just stand there and watch it hit you. And the 32 bus that runs on Oatfield, it runs during rush hour. Doesn't run weekends, it doesn't run at nights. And so for folks who are dependent on that public transportation, they're saying, okay, you want to live in Jennings or that area, you got to stay in your house. We can't provide public transportation for you. And I understand, you know, the bus is not full, but we need to work more at providing that through volunteerism, through other programs. And part of what we're looking forward to dealing with you folks today is partnering with the county and with Gladstone. You guys have some great ideas. I love the thing you're doing with the new city hall. I have a passion for folks in wheelchairs. I have a lot of friends. There's 75,000 folks in wheelchairs in the state of Oregon now. 225,000 people using a mobility device, a cane, a walker, whatever. Those people need public transportation. And we need to figure out how, as a county and as cities, to work together to make those things happen. There's lots of ideas. They all cost money, unfortunately, but there's lots of ideas about that money as well. And as someone who's been, you know, when I worked, I retired many years ago from Oregon Public Broadcasting. I rode 3 buses to Macadam to work and 3 buses home. And so, you know, I'm kind of an expert on public transportation. Wish I wasn't. But it's, and the need is growing. And it's only going to continue to grow, as Brenda said. Our population is aging. And I don't know why we shouldn't, as a county and as Gladstone, work together on developing these ideas. So we're just asking you guys, call us and let us talk to you about some of the things that Eric is an expert on making it an age-friendly community. Would you guys have ideas? Please include us in that conversation as well. I think we can grow together. That's you know, my little bit on transportation. I'm going to Jim's going to take me downstairs, and I'll watch the rest of the meeting. And like I said, my relationship with Gladstone has just been nothing but positive, and I expect that it probably will get even more so. And we were talking about the courthouse that we're trying to build in Oregon, or out at Red Soils. Try and get a wheelchair in the one we have now.
Yeah.
You can have.
No. Right.
Can't do that.
No.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. Before, I'm sure you have more, make sure that Jackie has all of your contact information so that we have that available.
So we don't have a specific ask. We certainly don't have all the answers for you today. We really want to just start a conversation, raise some awareness about some of the things that each community needs to allow everyone to fully contribute. We're learning more and more about the dangers of social isolation. Some studies show that being lonely is as dangerous as smoking like 15 cigarettes a day or something like that. So we need to make sure that people have the ability to get out, to get their transportation needs met. They have places to go that are welcoming, where they feel like their opinion matters. And as a city, you have amazing opportunities through the development. You're building a new library and a new city hall, the opportunities around sidewalks. So again, we're just here to share a little bit of information, hopefully spark a little bit of interest about how Gladstone could become more age-friendly, and just offer up whatever knowledge and expertise we have to assist you as you move forward.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Well, thank you.
Okay.
We haven't done enough. We certainly can do better, so I'm sure you'll be hearing from us.
Okay, wonderful. We welcome it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for all the information you provided.
So, a couple of things before we start. First, for those folks that would like to speak, please fill out the yellow cards on the black table by the door. We have general business from the audience at the end of the meeting, but also have public comment during the individual agenda items. So when you fill out the yellow card, please indicate when you would like to speak and we'll call you up. I would like to have the cards filled out ahead of time if that's at all possible, to kind of minimize confusion. And reminding you that we have a 3-minute time limit on business from the audience. Second, I would like to say a few words regarding the City Council. The most important limitation we have sitting here is that we are representing the citizens of Gladstone, not our own personal agendas and beliefs. There have been many times when a decision being made doesn't align with what we would like personally, but have made a decision based on what is best for the city as a whole. That doesn't mean our personal beliefs have changed, just that the city's needs were more important. As we discuss and consider matters, there are laws and rules we have to use as the basis of our decisions. These start at the federal and state level, then filter down to our city's comprehensive plan, city charter, codes, and ordinances. We do not have the luxury of randomly making decisions, but instead we have to be consistent and take a path that is defensible. And I want you to know that we appreciate the time that you spend here with us. And I would like all of you to respect the desire of others to hear what we're talking about. So if you could keep your side discussions at a minimum or as quiet as possible, we'd appreciate it. And also I want to make sure that everyone's phones are turned off. If the cell phones are being used, I'm more than happy to pause the meeting and let you finish your conversation or end your texting, and then we'll move on. My goal is to keep this meeting respectful and engaging. I hope you all can help us do that. Thank you. So first is the consent agenda. Any discussion or questions? Would someone like to make a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Councilor Neese and seconded by Councilor Tracy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passed. Are there any correspondence?
I have nothing.
No correspondence. All right, we're going to move on to the regular agenda. First item is number 9, Intergovernmental Agreement, also called the IGA, for the Tri-City Good Neighbor Program. To consider approving the IGA for the Tri-City Good Neighbor Program. Staff.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We're very excited to present this to you tonight. I believe we've been working on this agreement for over a year. The Council has been informed at certain milestones in the process. I'd like to say that Public Works Director Jim Wynot has been very instrumental in helping me get this to this point tonight. Also here tonight is Greg Geist with WES, Water Environmental Services, who took the initiative to want to collaborate with the cities of Gladstone and Oregon City. What you have before you is an IGA for the Tri-City Good Neighbor Program. We put a copy of the presentation that we had with the Clackamas County Commissioners and the Oregon City Commissioners in a work session just back in May. So you have a copy of that in your packet. I'd like to call attention to page 915 in the PowerPoint, because that is the area that has been defined by both Oregon City and Gladstone as WES as being the Tri-City Good Neighbor Program. And the intent of the IGA is that West is going to deposit funds into an account each year where Oregon City and Gladstone can use in that mutually benefited area to advance projects in their jurisdiction. So in the staff report, you will see that we actually have goals outlined in there. We have certain criteria that we have to meet. And for Gladstone, what's very unique is that we already have a Parks Advisory Board in place that can evaluate the proposed projects and make recommendations each year on how this money wants to be spent. So what you have is that West will agree to establish a Good Neighbor Fund. They are going to deposit $250,000 each year, beginning July 1, 2019, for 10 years. There's a formula on how these funds are split between Oregon City and Gladstone, and it's based on the number of equivalent dwelling units for each participating city. So with Gladstone, that would equate to approximately $50,000 annually that West would deposit into the city's Good Neighbor Program line item. The city will establish a designated line item for those funds to be restricted and only to be used for projects that meet the criteria as outlined in the intergovernmental agreement. In the staff report on page 9.2, we did identify some potential projects that would meet the criteria, and just for the record in the audience, I'll name some of those. It's certainly not limited to these. Connect the trail under the 99 East Bridge to Clackamas Boulevard, realign the trail between Orchard and Boat Launch at Meldrum Bar Park, install wildlife viewing area with signs at Dull Beach, repair trail and remove stairs at Cross Park, stabilize bank to prevent erosion at Cross Park, ADA compliance at several parks, potential for a fitness court at Charles Ames Park, and then the Trolley Trail Bridge replacement project. These were all projects that have already been vetted in the recently adopted Parks Master Plan. That doesn't mean that those are the only projects that we could do, but again, we would use the Parks Advisory Board to help vet those projects as they come. So Gladstone is the first one to approve the IGA. I believe Oregon City will be approving it next week. And if you have any questions from Mr. Geist, he is here tonight to answer those, or Jim Wynot and I could do the same.
Why don't we have Greg come up?
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman.
Hello. Does anyone have any questions?
It's a great opportunity to generate more funds in our Parks Fund without having to do property tax increases or a special levy or fees. And so it's really a great opportunity for Gladstone to get some of these projects done.
But it's
Good.
oh no.
No.
I was waiting for you too. I thought you were gonna go.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt.
It's not contingent on Oregon
the
City
administrator.
accepting the. Correct.
That's correct.
So if Oregon City takes a pass and we accept it, we're still in the running.
And then we get all their money, right?
But they've been doing this for years.
Negotiated that.
Yeah. They've been doing this for years, haven't they?
No, this is,
Milwaukee does it? You have something
right,
like that
this
there?
is based on our Good Neighbor agreement that we have with Milwaukee, but I think we've learned some things along the way, and I think this is kind of an improved, evolved version of that.
Well, doesn't Oregon City get some funds from you guys for being in Oregon City?
Right-of-way fees, lots of them.
Let's not go there. So, okay. Well, I do have a couple of questions. I don't want to...
No, mine was answered.
Okay. So, since you're sitting in the hot seat, the 250, as Oregon City grows, is our amount lessened then?
No, it's based on EDUs.
No, so the way that we've started it out is it's $250,000 this year. It's also, just as a nice round number, but as either Gladstone or Oregon City grows, that amount increases over time. So if Oregon City grows, yes, they would get additional monies, but it wouldn't reduce Gladstone's.
Oh, okay, because the way I read it was, okay, you got 250,000 in the pot, and then as the EDUs, you know, change, which Gladstone more than likely, I mean, we've pretty much, you know, grown out. We're not going to be adding very many, whereas Oregon City is, you know, still growing
Yeah, you know,
leaps and bounds.
Now that I think about it, it is based on a percentage.
80-20.
I'll have to take a look at that, but clearly the intent, and I'll put it on the record, is as Gladstone grows, as Oregon City grows, it will increase above $250,000, and both boats will rise with the tide.
Because I'll only say that's not what it says. I mean, not.
I read that in there.
I mean, what he's saying?
It will change the way it's. I can't remember the way it's worded, but it's basically as economy changes, this fund will change.
Here, the language is this percentage will be updated annually based on the EDUs.
Okay, then I
the
missed
proportional average will stay the same,
right.
but
But thank you for the clarification.
You tricked me a little bit on that.
No, I just misread it. So thank you. But I had one other question for staff. Are we going to need to make a budget adjustment like we just did for the fire department, being that this isn't in our current biennial budget?
Yes, I believe when we talked to our finance manager, the cleanest way to do this was to approve the IGA first, and then at some point she'll come back to increase the amount that we receive in revenues for that line item. Yes.
Okay. And I concur. This is definitely a win-win. Thank you.
Yeah, we're very happy to do it. I did have a question that I prepared an answer for that I thought you might ask.
Oh, go for it.
You know, my apologies when I was talking about Oregon City. I was thinking of, sorry, Councilor Trey.
No,
the South Metro.
You're talking about the enhancement fee.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
yes. I'm sorry. I'm getting my agencies.
Right.
So thank you.
So you have a question for yourself.
I do. So what does this mean for ratepayers? So this money doesn't just, comes from somewhere, and it's about 25 cents per household per month, and that's spread across the entire district, so Happy Valley down to Milwaukee, everywhere. So, but we think it's a small price to pay. We know that we want to be a good neighbor. We know we provide a vital service. We're proud of the work that we do, but we also know that we have an impact on this community, and so we want to account for that.
Well, I have to say, when was the first meeting? What, a year ago?
It's close.
Close to a year ago. This has been so fast. In government, nothing works. Nothing goes fast. This is great. Thank you very much for offering this and pushing it through so quickly.
Thank you.
No more questions?
Is the purpose of this to control some of the contaminants that are going to the river to make sure the projects are done properly, and what's the whole purpose behind this?
Well, so this is really a gesture from Water Environment Services to the cities that we impact, either visually with odors, noise. We're an industrial facility, and so it's really to enhance the surrounding geographic area with amenities and things that are consistent with WES's mission, which is clean water, public education, outreach, things like that. So it doesn't affect our treatment process. It's really for the cities to beautify the area and include additional public amenities in the area that we kind of impact.
And this boundary line you have, it's like running through the middle of a few of the blocks, kind of wrapping around Meldon Bar Park.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason that line is there? The money could be used other areas?
The geographic boundaries, we actually, it was the cities that proposed that. So this is one of the areas that I think improved upon. So our Kellogg Good Neighbor Agreement, they can only spend money within 200 feet of the fence line, which means they've done a ton of landscaping, right around the plant. But we know that there's connectivity and issues throughout this area, and so we basically put it to the cities and said, well, where do you think it makes sense? We wanted, there to be a reasonable constraint around our plant, but we know that the cities have planning efforts and other things underway, that they were the best ones to draw the boundary.
And it's actually a very generous boundary if you think about where their plant is located, to allow us to try to do more projects in an expanded area to do that.
Any more questions? Would someone like to make a motion, please?
Mayor, I move that we accept the intergovernmental agreement, IGA, for the Tri-City Good Neighbor program with Wes.
I second.
Motion was made by Councilor Tracy and seconded by Councilor Reisner. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? IGA agreed. Thank you very, very much. You have another question or something?
No, I
Is
was
that
just
what-
giving thumbs up.
Oh, thumbs up,
Thank you.
okay. Good. Oh, another question. All right, next is number 11, intergovernmental agreement, the IGA, with Metro for regional illegal dumping.
10.
Oh, is it 10?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, I put my check mark too quickly there. Number 10, Gladstone Police Association, the GPA collective bargaining agreement, to consider approving the Gladstone Police Association collective bargaining agreement July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2022. Staff.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Last month you approved the new collective bargaining agreement with AFSCME, and we are at a point now where the Gladstone Police Association and the City of Gladstone are ready to ask you to approve their collective bargaining agreement on 2019-2022. In your staff report, you have a list of who was on the city's negotiations team and the GPA negotiations team. Both teams met in good faith February 4th, 11th, and 19th, March 4th, 15th, and April 15th. And on June 24th, the GPA met with their labor attorney and ratified the agreement with the city's wage proposal, and they approved the 2019-2022 collective bargaining agreement. In your packet, you do have a redlined version of the new agreement, and staff is recommending that the City Council approve the 2019-2022 Gladstone Police Association and City of Gladstone collective bargaining agreement.
Do we have any questions? No questions. Would someone like to make a motion then?
I'll make a motion. Staff recommends approval of Gladstone Police Association, GPA, and City of Gladstone Collective Bargaining Agreement 2019 to 2022.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion was made by Councilor Mercereau and seconded by Councilor Neese. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Now I can put a check mark there. All right, next is number 11, intergovernmental agreement, the IGA with Metro for regional illegal dumping patrol program for unlawful campsite cleanup.
Another great partnership that our new police chief is implementing, and it is a pretty standard contract that Gladstone has had in the past, but I will let Chief Schmerber give a little bit of history and what the proposal is.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I bring forth a consideration to enter a governmental agreement with Metro's RID program. RID Patrol is a division of Metro, and it's used for cleanup of illegal dumping. That includes transient camps, potential cleanup there, and other illegal dumping. So when we talk about illegal dumping, it's essentially littering, only in large amounts. Whether it's a couch or a couple couches on the street, or it's, like I said, a transient camp or any other large area where trash is dumped for no other reason but to get rid of it by somebody. RID's a program that will come by and clean that up at their cost. So there's really minimal cost to us. And when I say minimal, and the only reason why I say there is a cost is in some cases we'll get to large camps or large cleanups that Metro may require us to purchase a dumpster, one of the large dumpsters. So that would be the cost. In my experience in 15 years of dealing with, when working with RID, I've never had that experience, never had that issue. So RID has always come out and helped us. In certain cases where it's dumped on public property, they do have investigators that they will call out and investigate those things. So that's another service that's provided. They would tie in with us and look for the suspects of that illegal dumping, and could be fined up to $500. So all in all, we don't have a lot of cleanups right now. We don't have a lot of cleanup in town. However, there is that potential. There's that potential with transient camps down by the rivers and so on, and we want to, like before, enter into that intergovernmental agreement so that we're prepared to deal with those if the need arises.
Okay, do we have any questions?
I don't, but I do have a comment. This program, I sit next to the program manager. This program is really busy right now, and I know you know this, Chief, and I know that you speak to a lot of folks that are involved in it. I think from the city's perspective, this is the kind of outside help you welcome. They have it down to a science, but they're at the point where there is so much happening with just the camps alone, that they're talking about basically building another unit for the camps. And this has gotten to a point where the amounts of materials and the tonnages that we're doing, when we're looking back 10 years ago on the RID patrol, it was really contractors or errant homeowners that were dumping off in the files. We're not talking about that anymore.
Right.
So
Cities.
it is. And so to your point, I mean, the minimal cost being a 40-yard dumpster, for what we get service-wise from this program, I think a 40-yard dumpster cost is well worth it every once in a while.
Yes,
So.
yeah, I agree. They've been great partners.
Yeah.
Great partners, and one that you don't want to abuse, obviously. You're not going to
Right.
come out for everything. I think in my monthly report you saw something of a couch sitting out there, and I'll do a better job of labeling where and why, and so my apologies for that. But Public Works picked one up, but the apartment complex that it was in front of, they came out. So we're also looking for other ways to get things cleaned up. We're just not, RID's not the, we're not going to push the panic button on RID all the time. We're always going to look for other ways. And the apartment manager, came out and cleaned that up for us. So Sean Boyle did a great job, tracking that stuff down. So RID's a great program, and I hope we enter into the IGA.
All right, any questions? Would someone like to make a motion then?
I'll make a motion that we consider recommendation to enter into a intergovernmental agreement with Metro and RID Patrol.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilor Neese and seconded by Councilor Reisner. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Thank you very much. And you're going to stay here for number 12. Retiring the Gladstone Police Department, GPD, public policy on policing. That needs to be one of those tongue twisters.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So again, I'm sorry to repeat you, Mayor, I'm looking to consider repealing the adoption of the public policy on policing. I don't want to go over the staff report that we prepared for you, but I'll just touch on some things. I do have some concerns, and one of the big concerns is officers trying to manage their daily activities and questions and activities through two different documents, meaning that we have Lexipol now. Lexipol is a robust policy manual that guides our activities and guides a direction on how we do our job. They have attorneys on standby that they look. It's a national-wide policy and procedure manual for law enforcement. They have attorneys on hand that look for changes in laws that impact policies and how law enforcement does their job. And if there are major changes, they immediately push those out to us so that we can get those back in our books and make sure everybody's trained up and everybody's working off the same case law. So we don't get in any trouble and create liability. And for minor changes, we'll get yearly updates, which are great. Secondly, I think what's important is, and something I talked to you all about during my hiring process, is I think a lot of this goes to culture too. I think we look at the decision-making part of the public policy. We always want to make great, solid decisions that our community enjoys and community wants, what the council wants. We want to reflect the values of our city, but we have to do it within the law. We have to do it within the guidelines and parameters of the law. But a lot of that is also culture. We're talking about a lot of culture, and I think that's where our strategic planning session that I talked about is going to come into play. That we're going to build that culture and look at our values, look at our community values, and it's going to be inclusive. It's going to be inclusive of the city council, mayor. It's going to be inclusive of our community. It's going to be inclusive of our members of our police department. So I think one we go with Lexipol and we stay with that because it's tried and true, and we get legal advice specifically that we already pay for. Secondly is we build the decisions and the values and the direction we want to go as a city with our police department. We build that in our strategic planning and develop that into our culture of the organization. So that's my recommendation, and I think by repealing this, we're going to be in much better shape.
All right, any questions?
I'll only make a comment. I talked with our interim chief, Kim, and she explained to me some things that were happening and are happening, I believe. But we used to have a few piles of policies, and it was a question of where you go to get this policy. And this policing policy was in one of the piles. And one of her efforts, I believe, was in the police departments, was get all the policies all in one book, so everybody knew which to work off of.
And that's Lexipol. That's Lexipol. It's updated. It's paid for. It's budgeted, and it's a valuable tool for us and a valuable tool for the city.
I think some of the keys are the updating on it, isn't it? How if there's a court case that closes,
yes,
they're letting everybody know right away that there's
away.
Changes or things to watch out for.
Yep, that's exactly right. Something we can train on. What Lexipol also does is they give you tips. So you send out, briefing training, you send out tips in the computer system. So officers can see them at briefings or see them sometime during the shift where it actually gives you training, and training on specific areas, whether it's harassment or whether it's criminal law or whether it's search and seizure. It's all pushed out. It's all pushed out electronically, which is nice, which obviously saves on sending officers to training.
Any other questions? No, someone like to make a motion then?
I move that we repeal the adoption of the 2010 public policy on policing for the city of Gladstone.
No, second.
Motion was made by Councilor Reisner and seconded by Councilor Tracy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you very much. All right, next we're going into business carried forward, and we have quite a few things listed there. First is coffee with a counselor. So I asked that this be put on because we haven't had really good turnout recently with coffee with a counselor, and we'd kind of talked about maybe changing the format a bit to, instead of just a free-for-all coffee with a counselor, have something that's more themed, where we can bring in, maybe we'll do a public works coffee with a counselor and bring Jim in, or a police one, so that maybe it would have a broader interest. The last coffee with a counselor that we had, Councilor Councilor Neese and I were there, and we had no citizens. So I think we need to change it somehow to make it more appealing to more people. What do you guys think?
When you do have people showing up, is it a random group of people, or is
It's the same people.
It's the same people.
Yeah.
So wife and
every once in a while we'll
they
get
can
a
just
couple
give you a
new.
call.
There's a couple that I've been to in the last 6 months where there's been 1 or 2 new people, and I think that was great, but mostly it's just the same.
Maybe we talk about, come up with some ideas and revamp it, and then start it off in September and not do it through the summer with so many projects and with various things happening and people being gone and on vacation.
Okay. Or maybe even let's just really think about it and push it off till January.
Yeah, we could do that. That'd be okay.
What do you guys think about that? Because I want to make this beneficial to citizens and to us, and I want to make sure that we put a lot of thought into how we do this.
I like the theme part of it.
Yeah, I think that might work.
I like the idea of pushing it out until January.
Okay, Councilor Mercero?
The original thought came up from Councilor Sickman when he was amongst us, and the meetings, the coffee talks, were great to be part of. I enjoyed it. We had, at that time, 10, maybe, as an average for a few months.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of went to a few people only, and the questions were all kind of the same.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that, and what I started out to say is that the general guidelines at that time was that the counselors, of which we typically tried to have 3, weren't a quorum. Okay, they could not make a decision.
Right.
We kept it from being a quorum. Okay, and it was strictly to get people's input. And we didn't keep records on purpose to try to keep it in that environment. And I saw us somewhat change our ways of doing things, and I just think one of the subjects is, do we want to keep it that same way? You know, do we want to change something? And for whatever we consider changing, the environment, the subject, or whatever, we need a pattern around that.
Okay. Well, I think maybe, how do you guys feel about bringing this up again, maybe in September? As a as an either business carried forward or an agenda item, so that we can come up with a plan. What do you think, Councilor Tracy?
I think we probably should come up with something that's more productive for both the citizens and for us, and at least opening up the conversation. I think if you do it so that you have a conversation topic like you discussed at the last coffee with the counselor.
It was the 3 of us.
Basically coffee with the mayor and 2 counselors. Yeah, I think that's a good way of doing this, because then we're addressing things directly and people come in prepared for the conversation, as can we, and so I think it's a good idea. Pushing it off to January, I think we work for the citizens. It's kind of up to them, but at the same time, the open door is the open door, and we haven't had a lot of participation.
Right, and the only real critical issue that I can see citizens wanting to talk about sooner rather than later are fee increases. And we talked about having a town hall. Mm-hmm. And when do we plan on doing that?
It's on the upcoming meeting dates on your agenda. It's listed for September 24th open house, and we're likely going to have that at the Gladstone High School.
Okay, so that would be the only thing that I think is coffee with the council would need to be done soon, but we're going to have a town hall instead.
Sure.
So why don't we just bring it back up again in September and make a plan? Does that sound okay?
Yeah, the town hall might be a place to get some input.
Yeah, that's true. We could. That's a good idea. Okay, sounds good. So the next item is change time for traffic court.
This is just an informational item for council. The judge signed a supplemental court rule. She would like to do a minor change in the time that she holds traffic arraignments and traffic trials. Typically, they've been scheduled at 2:30, and she would like to move that up to 2 o'clock. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of this court rule, and we're doing the proper notification that we need to on our citations and through the court system. So this is an informational item for you.
Alrighty. Any questions on that one? All right. Next is the City of Gladstone City Attorney Services. And Councilor Reisner asked that this be put. Is that correct?
Well, not necessarily. I was just responding as to today versus having executive session in a couple of weeks, and maybe we still might have that, but I thought at least...
See what people wanted to do.
Yeah, was my thought, and I didn't know if anybody else had replied, but...
I can give a brief summary
Yes,
for the
please.
audience.
Sure, please.
So the
Yeah,
city
very
issued a request for qualifications for attorney services. We issued that in June, and we sent it to the League of Oregon Cities, the Daily Journal of Commerce, and we posted it on the city's website for a month. The closing date was July 3rd at 5 p.m., and the city received no responses. The city attorney is appointed by the city council, so at this point I'd like some direction on how you would like to proceed. And I asked, did you want to talk about it tonight, or do you still want to do it in executive session in July 16th? So that's the guidance that I need from you.
So talk what next steps are. Is that something we really need to do in executive session, or can we kind of talk about it now? What do you guys think? You had kind of an idea of how a good next step would be.
Well, I don't know how, so was this noticed as an RFQ, Jackie, or did you have interested parties, and did we do direct noticing to interested parties?
It's issued as an RFQ. We followed all of the state or city contract, public contracting procurement rules to do that. The publication, Daily Journal of Commerce, League of Oregon Cities, those are the two where those firms would go to look for RFQs if they wanted to respond to that.
Yeah.
We had no responses?
No.
Well, yeah. I've talked to a couple of attorneys that I'm familiar with, and that was the first thing they asked was, where did you advertise? And their response was it wasn't broad enough, and actually suggested, Councilor Tracy, what you were saying is that should send out mailers or notices, not necessarily mailers, but to different firms that we think would be interested or would be in that field, being it's so specialized that in general, your attorney down the street, actually we've got one either direction, that they generally don't do municipal law. So.
And you're right, it's a specific group of attorneys that will do this kind of work.
And the ones I talked to did, they didn't know, and not that they would be interested, but something else that was mentioned was the bar. I don't know if that would be a good spot or not to throw it out there, but
like Vogies or
the Oregon State Bar.
The Oregon State
Sorry.
Bar. I'm sorry.
You do find a lot of it.
Yeah, we'll find one at Vogies, for sure.
My point in bringing
I'm thinking maybe the one across from the Multnomah County Courthouse, or across. Well, I better not go there.
My point in bringing it up, City Administrator Betts, is that if you do the direct interested parties field of practice direct solicitation and you get zero reply, then it's kind of asked and answered, I think. But if you're just doing a notice, if we're just doing a notice in DJC or any of those periodicals, then it's going to be missed. So I'm just trying to answer the question as to why somebody didn't respond.
And just past practice in municipalities, this is how they do that. You guys can certainly do it any way you want to.
No, totally understand that, but I also, as we procure, and I mean the different agencies I've worked with, one of the things that we found is when you go out for procurement, or you go out for RFQ or RFP or RFB, you do get folks who either miss it, they're not interested, or what have you, and we've taken the extra step in other agencies because we do those direct solicitations to interested parties. And what part of the reason we do that is so that when we don't find someone, we can back up and make a different planning horizon for the services we need, because there are not folks that are interested. You've already contacted, you knocked on their door, right? So, I mean, it's just covering those bases so that we don't come back with no response to an RFQ and say, well, why? is there no one that's out there that doesn't want to participate in this or solicit their services to us? It's just, it asks and answers that question, so.
So do we want to put it out again and follow that process?
I'm just suggesting the process because
I
we
think
got
that makes
zero.
sense.
Yeah, well, I wasn't, that's what I was gonna.
That makes sense?
Ditto on, if that. I think.
I don't have anything more than
Counselor
just
Ripley, what do you
that.
think?
I think if nobody's responded, nobody's responded. If you're practicing law in a specialty area, you know where you're looking for work.
They may not be
If-
looking for work right now, though. They
Well,
said they
that's-
weren't looking at DJC.
If they're not looking for work right now, that's not the city's problem.
Right.
Well, it is, and that.
They need to be planning.
Well, I didn't mean they're not looking for work, but they're not actively going through DJC to see if there's anything out there because they already have
You think their
clients
offices would
and-
be doing that?
Yeah, that's what I would think that they would be going through and checking, and you would have that word of mouth, and it's like your business, and you know, somebody saying, hey, do you know this is available? You know, you should look into this and see what you think.
Well, we were only soliciting requests for qualification, correct? We weren't soliciting a request for a proposal or a request for services, correct?
Request for qualifications is for the city attorneys, and then the responses would have come to the city council as the selection committee to review them, and then you could decide if you wanted to interview or if you wanted to entertain other types of offers.
We're asking for whether or not they're a qualified firm. We're not asking for them to participate in the procurement process, are we not?
I'm not sure I understand.
Request for qualification is asking for anybody who's out there soliciting the business to show us their credentials and qualifications for that book of business, correct?
Correct.
Okay, to me, that's different than a request for proposal for the services or a request for bid for the services. So we were out there just looking to see if there are other qualified firms that can basically represent the city as the city's attorneys, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, we weren't asking specifically in that RFQ to have a firm come to us and propose to us their rates.
Yes, that was all in the document I sent to you to review before we posted it out.
Maybe I didn't catch that part, but I guess I'm at a loss. I didn't understand that would be necessarily a request for qualifications.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I have the document if you want to review it again. It was sent to council for input before we sent it out. But we will do whatever it is that you want to do. It's really up to the council, though, on what you want to do with that.
I would recommend that we send out solicitations and then see what happens from there.
Post again in DJC and LOC, or just do the targeted?
And did you want to come up with the targeted places for that to be directly mailed to?
Personally, not. I don't, because I'm not sure.
I'm at a loss here because I don't feel like I have a dog in this fight, so to speak. I don't know exactly what we're doing, Counselor. I know we're looking for other firms that may be able to represent the city.
Right.
We could solicit directly to those firms that have those fields of practices.
Right.
If you feel that that's a...
Well, that's what...
I mean, I'm offering it up
that.
because I think it gets you more coverage.
Right, and I agree with you. And
To my understanding, the method that you use is the correct method
Correct.
for a contract of this magnitude.
Correct.
Okay. So, I believe we've done it the right way to the state and whoever's requirements. It's not like normal business in government. You don't go out and ask people for bids. You ask if they're qualified. If there's any person that wants to sign up for this environment, for Gladstone, to be our legal counsel. So, in my mind, we've done everything as appropriate by law, and we should make a decision whether we want to proceed the way we've been going or not. I personally have no problem with the legal counsel we've got. So, this group may have different opinions, but my opinion at this point, I'm fine where we're at.
But our current council didn't even put in a proposal, or whatever you want to call it. Didn't respond.
Nobody responded, not even, they didn't even respond.
Well, I believe if I was in their shoes, they are qualified. They've been their council for how many years now?
40 or 50.
I don't know about 50, but it's been quite a long time.
Well, going back with
To
Jack.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
72, 73, so 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, without
45
ever,
years.
without ever going out for an RFQ, ever.
So if our question would be, are you guys qualified? I would say yes. Okay.
If a firm knew that we were looking potentially for another firm to represent us, and we had an RFQ out there, if they were interested, they should have responded.
But the question is, did they know? Because
You guys know?
The feedback.
Yeah, they knew.
Yeah, but the feedback that I received was that maybe we didn't advertise enough. And I'm not saying that we did it wrong. I believe we did it right. I'm not questioning that at all. I'm just.
But was it enough?
Right. And so my suggestion would be to
Put it out again.
Yeah, and take the extra step of sending out, I don't want to say invites or whatever you want to call it. Like, apparently that's Councilor Tracy.
It's an interested parties list. You go out and search down a few firms that do what you want them to do, and you see if they're interested.
Right.
Which is not a big deal. So if we did that, you want us to look for those firms for staff?
I'm just saying, Councilor Tracy called it an interested party selection. You know, the Oregon State Bar has a lot of firms. That would be difficult for me or someone in my staff to say, we're not sure which one the council would want this sent to. So I would need some more guidance on a direct. We can do that. I just need some more guidance on where would you like those all sent?
I would say metro regional area. I wouldn't pull from Eugene and Medford.
Right. And I haven't even looked on their website as to what categories they have, but definitely I would say try to stay in there.
Are we looking for an action?
This is what I was saying. I need guidance. You could talk about it tonight. We could talk about it in our executive session on July 16th. We will do whatever it is a majority of you want to do.
Councilor Reisner, what do you think about it? Talking about it when we have the executive session.
Do we need an executive session for this?
Or do we?
I don't think we do.
No.
Because we're just talking about process.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, getting the word out again and trying to expand that word is the way to go.
Okay.
And I say I don't have any experience in tracking down any kind of business, and
well, if
like
that's
this
the
or
way
anything
we
else.
need to go,
So maybe see if staff can
or
come up with a list. I
if
don't know.
we decide to go that way, I will take a day out of my work schedule and I will do it. So what do we want to do? Make a decision tonight, or do we want to hold it over till the next meeting?
I think the attorney's offices have already made the decision. They weren't interested. They might have went back and read some next door Gladstone and some Clackamas Review articles and figured they didn't want to have anything to do with Gladstone. But for some reason nobody turned anything in. That kind of tells you where they're at right now. Either they're not looking for work or they're not interested in any work. Because I think those places where they posted it is where those attorney officers are going to be looking if they're looking for work. don't think there's any point in making more work for staff or anybody on the council.
Are we at an impasse?
I think we're at an impasse. Why don't we do this at the next meeting?
Meeting in August?
Yes, please. Because we were going to have the executive session. Was this the only topic?
July 16th was to review the proposals that we did not get.
Yeah, so we aren't going to have an
we
executive
don't
session.
need
Put
to
this
have
on
that.
the August agenda, and we'll talk about it further then. We're not in a big
So
hurry.
August
so
13th, we
Yep.
will talk in an open session about the city attorney services process.
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right, so the next thing is the Oregon State Marine Board dredging grant conversation. And Mindy Garlington's with the Parks Board, so she's here if we have any questions for the Parks people.
We need to first, there we go. Okay, so this is scheduled to come before the City Council on August 13th. As you are aware, the city is going to receive funds from the Oregon State Marine Board and ODF&W to do the dredging in Meldrum Bar Park. You will get a comprehensive staff report in August. The reason why we're talking to you tonight about this is it was the subject on the Parks Board agenda last night. Public Works Director Jim Wynot and I attended the meeting because that's the next step before we accept a grant, is to vet it through the Parks Board and tell them about what the city's financial requirements are. Out of that conversation, they asked that I give you certain talking points tonight, and they asked that we have 5 or 10 minutes to talk about that. I did send you the link to the meeting last night. If you had a chance to listen to that, great. If not, what I'm really trying to do is to summarize for you is the total project cost is $405,000. The city will receive $350,000 in grant funds from the state. The city is required to have a $30,000 cash match. We would need to hire a project manager, and Jim Wynot and I estimate that will cost about $25,000. So therefore, the city needs to commit $55,000 in resources. This is good news to you because when we originally got the grant, we thought we were going to have to come up with $110,000. So the great news was that we had it reduced by the time that we went to the Parks Board meeting last night. So the number that we need you to focus on is the $55,000 in resources. So this is what we are proposing. The Parks Board is willing to take $30,000 from their Parks Systems Improvements and Project line item. In the new budget, there is $68,000 in a fund for projects that the Parks Board can delegate how they want that money spent. The $25,000 was unknown until last night. What the Parks Board said was that we're willing to do $30,000 if the city can find the money from someplace else. And we're willing to do the $30,000 if Parks gets that money back once the city's completed their tourism strategy, and if there's a determination that these funds would qualify per the tourism ORS 320300. So, since we have a member of the Parks Board here, I just want to make sure I've captured that correctly, that summary.
Yes and no. I think that I want to make sure this is right. So, Mindy Garlington, the $30,000 that we talked about taking out of the $68,000, yes, that's in our budget, but that is that's old money. We got no new money. Understand? Okay. So this is $68,000 is supposed to carry us for the next 2 years. So if we gave up 55, it would be a bit much. But $30,000 is what, even if we didn't get it back from tourism, we hoped to, but if we didn't, we still feel like this is well worth the city's time and effort in order to go forward from that.
And then I just want to add two more little things that we can't bring this money back from that West money that they were talking about, because as Jackie explained to us, although the West money comes, you know, we can use it for lots of things, it does not fit this criteria, so that's off the board if that's in anybody's head either. And then just that I want to reiterate that, again, the park did not get any project fund money for the next 2 years. So we have no extra. We were cut off right there. And so this $30,000 takes us down with nothing to bring back until the budget cycle comes around in 2 more years. So we're asking the city to come up with $25,000 from, good luck, I'm not sure where.
Well, thank you for that, because what I'm proposing is that $25,000 come from the business development and community promotions line item. However, I want to make sure you understand what else is coming out of that line item. So in the current budget, it's estimated that we will have approximately $235,000. $50,000 of that is designated for economic development work, like John Southgate as our consultant. And probably we're going to hire a consultant to help us implement parks fees. So that $50,000 would come out of that $235,000 that we have. $147,000 is allocated as a match required for the Metro Flex Fund on the Trolley Trail Bridge replacement. We were required to have a 10.27% match. If we are successful in getting funds from Metro and that project, it would come out of that pot of money. And then the $25,000 for the project manager for dredging at Meldrum Bar Park. That scares me to only have $13,000 left in that line item, but I feel like that is justified to do that. And I wanted to make sure that the city knew this is the direction that staff is headed, unless you feel otherwise. And then we can report that back to the Parks Board in August and bring back the grant acceptance at the August 13th council meeting.
But if Parks gave up all $55,000, then we too would be left with $13,000 for the next 2 years. $13,000.
Well, and then your fee machine is $11,000 or $12,000 of that.
Right. If once that gets in, and that's
would leave you with
been bumped
$1,000
till next year anyway. So it's not like we're going to collect any money from that. Again, sitting with just $13,000.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you for putting so much thought into finding ways to make this
yes,
happen.
Thank you so much for looking for that.
And for having it reduced from the $110,000.
I listened to a lot of the conversation, nearly an hour and a half, I believe. And one of the subjects was getting the machine from Meldrum Bar. And the thought was getting money that would help out parks. However, for the first $5,000, I believe, it was someplace in that range, that we virtually, the money we get from state, we have to give back to the state. So, but the summary of the whole thing is, it seems like a good thing to do, and if we get more than $5,000, then we're starting to get something back for the Parks Board. So,
for the parks.
Yeah. So we may be giving away the first $5,000 or whatever. They're just trading it off. To me, that sounds like a good thing, and that would be part of the help to put more funds in the coffer, so to speak, to match our work with the $13,000, and it could be considerably more. We just don't know at this point.
Yeah. But and I agree with that, but and our consensus was that we didn't feel like the city could pass this deal up that Jackie and Steve have found. that, or Jim have found, sorry, it just would be shooting ourselves in the foot not to have it. If we don't dredge the river, then we are unable to launch boats for certain periods of time because it's not deep enough for that brand new dock that we just got put in. So it's really important that, all of this follow through is done.
So I have a question, and it's for staff, and it was asked of me, is we knew this was the third part of a 3-part grant process. So we've known for a while that we may have had to come up with this money. Why did we not insert it into the budget tentatively before now instead of it coming 100% out of the parks? Here comes Jim. He's got that answer.
So as we mentioned last night, this grant came to us way sooner than expected. It was planned on being in another year or so, which with the whole process, we were actually anticipating this being in the next budget cycle, possibly.
And it may still.
And it may still because of the permitting, which is where we saved the nearly $45,000 in that permitting, because we worked with the Oregon State Marine Board, and they're going to take on that piece. So, and that's in their wheelhouse, so it's going to work out really well. So that's why it didn't. We actually, this whole process has been going on for a couple years now. Is actually things got switched around. We were supposed to get the dredging before the boat dock, but we ended up getting the boat dock first. Now the dredging was going to be later. This thing's going to take a lot longer. So my guess is someone that had a grant wasn't able to fulfill their end, and there's some money available, something like that. It's hard to say what happened, but there was money's available now.
I just wanted somebody other than me to make it clear so that it was.
I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, before you go, then, so what is the timeline? That I mean, it does sound like it's fluid.
Yes, it is very fluid and very complicated, and I'll try to do my best to explain it without confusing you more. So the process is, right now, as we agree and commit to the $55,000. Basically, we're going to manage the project. That's where the $25,000 is. The city's going to have to manage the project, put it out to bid, manage it all the way through until it's finished. The permitting piece is the big question. The permitting is already in the works. Oregon State Marine Board is starting to do this permitting. Even if we didn't do it right now, the permitting's got to be done. I was talking with Doug over at the Oregon State Marine Board. He says, gosh, to try to get it done in time to have it for next summer in-water work period, which is during the summer. Mm-hmm. He doesn't think it can happen, but it could. So if that doesn't happen in that window, it's actually going to happen in 2021, which is actually in our next budget and their next budget. So this is...
Works out better.
Yes, but it could happen. It's hard to say. They're trying to make it happen so we can do it next year, but no promises. Mm-hmm. So, but we have to commit now for this.
Yeah. We don't have to write them a check right now.
No.
But we need to know that the money is there.
Exactly. Because how this works is it's a reimbursement. Grants for the Oregon State Marine Board are a reimbursement. So the city is going to pay all this. When it's all said and done, we get to sit down there and do mountains and mountains of paperwork and document time cards and sign this and sign that and send it in this big packet, and then they reimburse us that $350,000. This is how that works.
So how long does the dredging take? I know we're talking...
I have no idea, but I would assume within the in-water work period of about 2 to 3 months.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and part of that process is finding, we did the soil analysis initially. Those results are back, so they're using that information to figure out where they can take the soil. It's looking like, from what I'm hearing, is it can be redistributed within the river, downstream somewheres for habitat or whatever. There's some areas they need to find some place to put that, and they're working through all those permitting processes. So.
And that's the Marine Board's responsibility.
Yes, and that's where we saved a big chunk, because we were going to have to bring on an environmental firm to do the permitting part, because we do not have that expertise. Right. But they decided to take that on, so that was a huge piece that was going to be part of our match.
Okay. Any other?
Lots of really good things are falling into place. We just need to go.
Yes.
We just need a sugar daddy to give us a whole bunch of money.
If we can commit to it, then the ball's going to start rolling. And don't know when it's going to fall in the hoop, but it's going to start moving.
So do we want to give staff direction on whether this looks reasonable. Do we need a motion or just a consensus for this?
I think I just wanted to update you that this is what the direction staff is headed as we bring this back to you in August 13th. And since I didn't hear any objections, we'll continue that path.
Okay. All right, the next is the 4th of July debrief, or should I say Mogadishu during an insertion.
So, thank you, Councilor Reisner sent out an email to myself regarding some concerns that neighbors and himself had about the level of illegal fireworks over the 4th of July. I have Chief Schmerber and Chief Huffman here tonight to provide you a brief report on the 4th of July and to answer any questions that you may have.
Council Mayors, thank you very much. First, I'll give you a synopsis of the activity of the Gladstone Police Department for that night, then I'll let Chief Huffman respond for the fire. Gladstone police officers that night did respond to 11 calls of fireworks. I'll talk about criteria on how we responded to that. The response of criteria for responding to fireworks that night was that if it's a danger to property or potential injuries that are called in, we definitely want to hear those calls. If it's fireworks going off in the neighborhoods that we're not aware where it's at, or they're just going off, we're going to take that as area information because there's a lot of them going off, and it's just not Gladstone. It's everywhere. However, we did respond to 11 calls for service on that. We arrested a drunk driver that night that was on a state grant bid. We had an extra officer out there doing DUI enforcement. And we had patrol officers out there, so our staffing level was 4 officers up until midnight, 3 officers after that until 3 in the morning, then 2 from 3 to 7 in the morning. So during the daytime hours, much staff attended the barbecue in the park. That was me included. So we had our K-9 out there, who was also the DUI patrol later that night. So we had lots of staff out there, day watch activity, day watch patrolling, stopped in. So I'm hoping that answers the staffing question, Councilor Reisner, that you may have had. With regards to that, the only person that I did give the day off to, who would have been working during the daytime with me, was Lieutenant Fryette.
And he came to the barbecue.
But he stopped by the barbecue also. So with his daughter. Other than that, that's kind of where we're at. Standard operating procedures on Thursday would be regular staffing as we did for the 4th of July. I did concur or ask and inquire about what the 4th of July is like in Gladstone. This is my first 4th of July. Adequate staffing, the staffing we had in place, the model we had in place with no time off required. You know, we listed no time off, and so everybody was working. We had full staffing, and that was adequate as far as the past. When we look at the fireworks, we can always talk about what the City of Gladstone and what the Council's direction is going to be with regards to fireworks, illegal fireworks. That night we did respond to 2 calls for service also, one being with the fire department on a fire, and I'll let the fire department talk about that, but no illegal fireworks were the cause of that. The other one was a drunken disorderly incident. So anyhow, Fire Chief.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor, Council. For the fire department on the 24 hours of July 4th, for our risk analysis, I did the same as the police chief. I looked at past history and talked to the fire marshal and the staff of the fire department, and the fuel model, fuel moisture within the area for grass fires. So we looked at that and went with historical staffing, which was 1 more than normal. We usually staff 2 during the week, so we added a 3rd person to staff the fire engine, which we did for 24 hours. For that, the calls of service were 1 fire, 4 EMS calls, and 1 false call, for a total of 6 responses. Fire was actually suspicious in nature. It was some firework debris around a fence post that was ignited, either intentionally or accidentally. from the fireworks, and there was no indication of illegal fireworks during that fire from the report from the fire marshal. Along with the police chief, we were at the barbecue. We had a staff there. That was a really good community event. And I think more importantly than meeting the public, the fire marshal really did a good job, as did the crews, on fire prevention messaging and safety. And in hindsight, I think that had an impact on the night, as we did not have any serious fires or injuries in the 24 hours.
Awesome. Questions?
So, well, I do. Obviously, that's my, mantra. But so do getting back to some of the data. Do we still have a reserve program?
We do have a reserve program. We have one reserve, and he was not working.
Oh, okay. So, okay. Well, that answers that part of things. I know other cities have taken on special programs for Independence Day evening to address illegal fireworks. So the impression I get is we don't have that, and we don't really concerned about illegal fireworks.
It's not that we're not concerned about illegal fireworks. There's a lot of it everywhere, regardless of what community you're in. There's a lot of noise going on too. I'm familiar with strategies on dealing with illegal fireworks. I have dealt with those in the past. We've partnered with local fire marshals and gone out and confiscated fireworks and ran firework details. There's a balance on that also. My experience tells me there's a balance when you're dealing with people, whether legal or illegal fireworks. You don't know until you get called, and you don't know until you respond, which goes to your point with alcohol. You mix alcohol and you mix fireworks. It's not a good recipe. It's not a good recipe. And so what we try to do is maintain the peace, encourage visibility with law enforcement, and or with the fire marshals themselves. But more importantly is what we don't want to do is create a riot at the same time. So and I've seen that happen by going out. So it's a delicate balance. It's a delicate balance. We can do that. We can throw more resources at it. I guess we'd look at council for direction on what does the city of Gladstone want to look like on the 4th of July, and we can throw resources at it, but there's also fiscal responsibilities with that.
Mm-hmm.
But in the past, where I'm coming from personal experience, having worked the street on 4th of July, that extra bodies out there makes the community safer. I mean, I've had in the past when out doing fireworks in front of my place when kids were younger. Frank Grace, granted, this has been a few years ago. He was out on the 4th, driving around, meeting people, kind of like the August night out, and at the same time making sure that people's fireworks. And my take on this is we got lucky. We had the one fire at the church, but I mean there was thousands of mortars. I would say it sounded like it, at least probably dozens, if not more, at least in my neighborhood, that could have turned into a fire. Burned, we've got other communities around us that houses did burn down because of illegal fireworks. Happens every year. And just in my take on it, and actually I've got a couple neighbors that are concerned also, that it's not a concern of the cities.
Maybe that's a theme for one of our coffee with the counselors in the spring, early spring or winter.
Yeah.
Strategize on what we can do better for 4th of July.
And I think we can. I think as a city we could put together some sort of campaign with a marketing and branding type thing. There's a lot of things we can do with fireworks if chosen to do so. So I look at some direction from you, and we can also look at different strategies for policing. This was the chief. Obviously, it was our first 4th of July here, and it was for us successful because we had no one get hurt and we had no structures burned down.
Yeah,
it was successful for us. We can change that up. Sometimes you create your own luck. Sometimes you just get lucky. So, but we can look at things, and we're very open to next year's strategies.
Okay.
And any other event, whether it's New Year's Eve or 4th of July, they're both, risky.
Don't forget Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Okay, so,
and
we'll just do that. We'll just bring it up in, February.
And I know
March.
this is the third or fourth year for the barbecue.
The fifth year.
Fifth year. Oh, time flies when you're having fun. And so thank you guys for supporting that, putting that on. And the mayor's cookies, I understand from a neighbor, were fabulous.
It was the peanut butter cookies.
So, well, thank you. And again, I hope here in the next week or two, we'll get a chance to sit down with me and sit down with with you guys.
Absolutely.
And
Looking forward
introduce
to
ourselves. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For sticking around. All right. So the next item is business from the audience.
I had...
Oh, go ahead.
Right. No, I was just going to make sure you knew I was going to be gone the rest of the week, so there will be no weekly report from City Hall this week. So.
Okay. All right. So Tammy's got the cards, and I want to remind everybody that it's 3 minutes, and I'm going to keep you to it. So who's the first?
Carol Borges.
Okay, this is my first experience with this, so I'm going to read my petition, okay?
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carol Voorhees, and I reside at 1035 Cornell Avenue in Gladstone with a cross of Landon Street. It has been brought to my attention that the increased problems in our neighborhood has suffered due to increased numbers of nuisance wildlife could possibly be something the City Council would address and help us with. In 2016, there was a mediation with Clackamas County Resolution Services addressing the problem of people on our street providing food for several types of wildlife, as well as feral cats. The nuisance wildlife has caused great damage to our homes, our yards, and although they're nocturnal by nature, they have been conditioned to feed during daylight hours. It's very alarming when you're enjoying a family gathering with your family or a cup of coffee on your patio in the morning, and you're invaded by a surfeit of skunks or a gaze of raccoons. Last week, a raccoon came into our backyard from the buffet across the street and sat down on a rock very close to my husband and watched him. In addition, our granddaughter photographed a family of 7 skunks that came through our yard in the late afternoon and went across the street for dinner. In the last couple of years, we have gotten permits from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife for trapping and have trapped 20 and removed 20 skunks from our backyard. This is in addition to other people in our neighborhood that we know have had the same problem and removed skunks or had to hire to have them done. What I'm hoping to accomplish tonight is to start a conversation regarding adding feeding nuisance wildlife as a violation with a fine attached to the city's nuisance code. I think an enforceable no-feed zone around known habitat areas would benefit all Gladstone residents. Even if the skunks aren't in your yard now, their children and their grandchildren will be soon. A skunk scent can permeate the air for 1.5 miles. The raccoons carry diseases, and they're clever and so destructive. It is a known fact that when they need to forage for their own food in their own natural habitat, and when this is replaced by abundance of food by humans, their populations increase. I suggest an aggressive community information campaign to stop feeding wildlife in Gladstone, at least. I sure hope you take this request seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Cheryl Neely, and I live next door to Carol at 1025 Cornell. And unfortunately, our homes are upwind from the wildlife feeding operation, so naturally our homes are targets for their dens. They want to live on our properties so that they can be close to the buffet.
People on the east side of the street and in that block, not just Cheryl and I.
other neighbors too. At our county resolutions meeting, we went because, and we, were able to talk to the people who are doing the feeding, and we purposely did not invite the more aggressive neighbors that have had enough, and they have been shooting at the wildlife. So I have tried talking to these people and telling them how their feeding of the wildlife encourages the wildlife to come, whereby then the aggressive neighbors shoot at them. And she gets really angry and really mad about that. But if you don't feed them, then they don't come to your house. She didn't quite get that. So nothing has really worked. The neighborhood livability has gone down enormously. The stench is unbelievable. It'll stay on my car for a day and a half. Drive to work, smell it the whole way to work all day, get into my car, and it's still there. Oh, God. It's only a matter of time before it really drops our home prices too, our home values. Other thing I wanted to mention is that our pets are threatened by this wildlife. If your pet, these noxious critters carry rabies, tapeworms, canine and feline distemper, so your domesticated pets are at risk. Parvovirus, leptospirosis, pseudorabies, tuberculosis, and actual rabies are all known to occur in skunks and raccoons. They leave behind their excrement. I looked into the cost value. I'm a registered nurse, so of course I'm interested in all this. To vaccinate if your pet is not vaccinated, but it gets bit or in a fight with one of these critters, your pet will, if it has been vaccinated, will spend 10 days in quarantine, and if it shows signs of rabies, it will be killed. So you don't get your pet back. If your pet's not vaccinated, they put it in quarantine and do the same. They'll probably kill it. If a human, and with these critters coming so close, I was out on my porch.
Time's up. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. Staff has.
And I think you did great for your first time
speaking.
Thank you. You did brilliant. I just wanted to. I know you did fantastic, and I did want everyone to know that our code enforcement is working through this case, and there is a mediation agreement in place that they are not abiding by, and so I just wanted to let you know that if there are code changes that we need to work on, we'll bring that to you, but the more important thing was that you knew that we are addressing this issue now.
Okay, thank you.
Who's discharging a firearm in the city limits at wildlife? I think that's the one thing that jumped out at me.
And we have
about
the police chief right there.
Yeah, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, that's the first we heard.
Thanks.
So.
This was in the past, and the weapon involved was a BB gun.
Oh.
Well then that's different.
That's a little different.
It's still a firearm.
Illegal firework, I don't know.
Okay, well, let us know if there's anything else we can do, but it sounds like staff is working on it, and they'll come back to us if we need to make some code changes.
We're sorry that you have to live in that type of environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I can
Say,
smell
when
it up at my
when
house.
I told Jackie about it Monday?
Yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday. That was Monday.
Yes.
Jackie, she jumped right to getting on that.
Thank you.
So she was Johnny on the spot on that.
So fast, because I just heard about this meeting yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's not okay to have those
Right.
skunks.
Yep, and feel free to come again. We love having
we'll
you
keep you in the
here.
loop.
If we were to have paid to have those 20 skunks taken out of our yard, we recently, because we right now are having an insurance claim because of that raccoons that did many $1,000s worth of damage in our house. They wanted $345 to remove one animal.
Oh my goodness.
Whoa.
Okay, well that's a business to
So,
get into.
Yeah.
All right, well thank you very much.
Ladies, you did great.
Bob Everett. Follow that, Bob.
Okay, here comes the second skunk.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Bob Everett. I live here in Gladstone, work here in Gladstone, have an office here. I'm here tonight representing both the Gladstone Oak Grove Rotary and, of course, the Gladstone Festival. It's hard to believe it's only 3 weeks away, and I'm not ready at all. So that's no different than any other year. But I do hope that we get a good turnout. I'm excited that the new police chief and the new fire chief get to witness the festival in full force. And we've got a number of events going on, as usual. One of the things, there's a couple new things. First off, a local member of the community has worked diligently to put together a number of stage activities and full days. We have a number of bands coming in. In fact, we actually have 4 bands that will be appearing throughout Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that's a little bit new. We've also decided to drop the entry fee for the pie baking contest and the chili cook-off. There will be no cost to enter that. So hopefully people will be aware of that, and they can participate then too. We're looking forward to that. The other thing is that we have decided that we're going to actually, for the parade, have some judging. And we have a number of categories. Tracy and Teresa have come together with a number of categories and have some ideas and criteria for that. And we are looking for judges. So counselors, or I have been asked to ask one of the new chiefs if they would like to be a judge for the parade. You know, there's no experience required, and you know, don't both volunteer at once, okay? So, but we need 3 judges. Well, we have 1, so we really only need 2 judges. And I know Matt would love to do that, so, or Randy, you know, I mean, as a new counselor, you know, come on around.
I already said I'm very judgy.
and I don't know what the criteria are, actually, but, so hopefully, someone will step forward and we can do that. There's a couple other activities for the parade, that Tracy and Teresa are working on, and, of course, the car show. Bigger and better than ever. I know that Tom and Juan will make sure that works out as usual then too. Beer Garden's open again this year, and bigger and better, and many vendors. So hopefully come along, have a good time. I left some brochures on the back, and if you ever need any information, I'm here. That's for sure. So, and Tammy, I want to talk to you afterwards.
I know,
too.
we need to talk, because I still don't know what I need to do.
Alrighty. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, looking forward to it. And I'll be glad when it's done.
Next.
Mindy Garlington, or did you already? Okay.
Okay.
Bill Osborne.
Hi, Bill Osborne. I was just here to talk about the solve cleanups. We had one on June 15th. We had about 26 people show up. Together gathered about 20 bags of garbage, recovered 1 or 2 shopping carts, a barbecue that was discarded alongside the river, and a few other miscellaneous goodies. We still continue to pull up less and less garbage on a whole, and we have some of the homeless people actually self-cleaning up still. During the cleanups, we hand out bags if we run across them, and one gal brought a couple carts full of stuff up, and then I seen her with one of the bags full of her soda and beer cans to take back, but at least they're not littering the side of the river. We have our next cleanup coming up here July 20th. We also have one August 17th and September 21st. It's the 3rd Saturday of every month from 10 to noon. And the third Saturday of the month. I also ran across a group of kids this last Saturday. They had I seen signs for a solve cleanup when I was going down to the community gardens to work on my garden, and followed them down there, and I didn't see anything on the solve website or anything about a cleanup, so I was kind of curious, and I went down and talked with them, and they had just decided a week prior to put one together. These are high school kids. They were down in the Doll Beach area.
Good.
So they expressed interest in doing these on a more regular basis. I talked with them, gave them my contact information, gave them some ideas, and told them If they're going to do this again, to get a hold of me, I'll help them promote it, which I think is important, especially with the parks budget being slashed like it was. We're going to have to take care of the parks ourselves, so I'm still looking for other people who would be interested in doing other parks, and certainly volunteers. Wes is sponsoring the Riverside cleanups this year, so they've sent some employees out. We have Cub Scout groups that come out, and I believe the next one, Clackamas Federal Credit Union, is going to be sending some people out too. So if we can get these going on a regular basis, we can get a decent crowd on all of them, and we can keep our at least our Riverside and our other parks clean. And of course, as usual, you're all invited. Love to see some of your faces out there, or some of the other cleanups, or maybe even sponsoring some of the parks that have yet to be sponsored. So
great.
Solve makes it really easy to do. They give you everything you need. They walk you through promoting it, and if you schedule it, people tend to show up. So
good. Thank you for doing all that.
Thank you
very much.
Curiosity, any scooters?
No, not yet. They're probably still making their way south, but you give it time.
All right.
Thanks, Phil.
Next. Last is Les Poole.
Good evening, Les Poole. I live on Cornell. Good to see Bob here, because if I didn't, I was going to talk about the Gladstone Festival, and I want to thank him and everybody for all the time and energy they put into it. And for those that don't want to be judges, I see there's a dunk tank option, and then there's a family-friendly beer garden. So I'm sure you'll have volunteers for the family-friendly beer garden. But I do want to seriously thank Bob and everyone that's put that together and kept it going. There was a time when things were pretty lean around here. I do have a couple of subjects, and one of them is, we've got a lot of experience in land use and transportation, so like you folks, after a while you start looking at the side of the road and you start studying the right-of-way. Then you really know you've lost your mind, like me. But as I look at the side of the road, I see ODOT cutting away vegetation all along 224 and 99 and throughout the county, and certainly through Gladstone. And the reason's really sad. They're clearing out places where the homeless have been living. And what's growing back is, of course, vines, invasive species, and blackberries. I'm not here to ask Gladstone to do anything about it, or to condemn ODOT for what they're doing, but we need to be aware of just how far these impacts go. I mean, you think about the homeless. ODOT spent over $1 million in this region in the last year cleaning up homeless camps. And so, as they're trying to prevent the problem on the highways, where the homeless go? They're still out there, so they're being squeezed into places, and obviously we've got a homeless issue here. So it's just one of those things that really tears at me. And I know you hear a lot of stories, you see a lot of things, and again, I think we need to be really aware of how inadvertently the homeless are being directed and where they're ultimately going to end up. The last thing I want to mention is, before this evening's meeting, I thought that it'd probably be about 25 after 8 before I get a chance to speak, because the business from the audience is at the end of the meeting. And until recent months, we had it at the beginning of the meeting and at the end. And I believe that citizen input, citizen concerns and questions, and the opportunity at a fairly predictable time for folks to come in and talk should be reestablished. I'm not a proponent that we should have comments at the start and at the end of the meeting, but if we're going to have them one time, let's do them early in the meeting or at the start of the meeting. I think that's really critical. I know that's a direction that years ago a lot of communities went to. So I would make a strong request that we have citizen comments at the start of the meeting or earlier in the meeting in the future. And thank you. Somehow I accidentally timed that just right.
Or a little over.
And that's it?
No more.
All right. So now we're moving to business from the council. Let's start with Counselor Ripley.
I don't have anything.
All right, Counselor Neese,
I don't have anything.
Counselor Tracy.
Couple things. We had another Water Commission meeting this month, and we're going to be introducing some new things and talking a little bit more about the plant. Also, for Mr. Osborne, are you familiar with the Metro bag program for the homeless? So, are you at all familiar with that? I don't know if they've reached out, Bill, but I'll go ahead and put somebody in touch with you since you're running the SOLVE component down here. Metro's got a program now where they're actually going out and engaging with folks who are house challenged or houseless and giving them these garbage bags that the people, obviously, they put their trash in and then they leave the bag out, and the bags are picked up by Metro and they're collected, and this is kind of a way to offset some of the, basically mitigate some of the stuff that you're probably finding, which are probably from some of the camps. I mean, I'm sure that most of these folks, a lot of folks are policing up after themselves, but I'll try to get you in touch with that program so that you have those resources. Other than that, nothing else.
Counselor Reisner.
So I attended the library board meeting last week, and a lot of things happening. LDAC is working on, that's the committee that advises the county commissioners, as they're the board of directors, and they've got several different things that they're looking at. We've got a lot of participation going in the task force in regards to our new library, the library board is working pretty close with the foundation for a lot of different little programs, and one thing that they're starting is a seed library. So if you're needing vegetable or flower seeds, they're going to have those available here in the near future. And also been invited to the Library Foundation, speaking of the festival, book sale breakfast kickoff on August 2nd at 6:30 at John Wetton Elementary.
That's also the chamber breakfast that morning, too.
Okay, thank you for... Did I miss anything?
No, you covered it.
Okay, thanks.
We both were there, but that's why I didn't
I know,
say
that's why
anything,
that's why I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, you covered it.
That's it.
Thank you, and have a great month.
Counselor Mercero.
Have nothing.
All right, so I'm going to probably tag team one of these things with Counselor Tracy. So, as other people have done, I'd like to thank the Fire and Police Department for an amazing 4th of July barbecue. That was wonderful. We had, conservatively, I think 450 people show up, and it was one of those old-fashioned gatherings where everybody was just really having a good time, meeting, talking, playing games. It was really nice. When it started 5 years ago, we had 20 people. So it's definitely gained traction, and people are talking about it. So thank you, and I hope we can continue to do it in the future and that more people go. I'd like the counselors to go. It was really a good way to meet the citizens. Also, I have earthquake safety checklists on the back table because I think South of Southern California is kind of a wake-up call, and I hope our GEMS and CERT teams use that unfortunate tragedy as a way to push the agenda that we all need to be prepared, because we're not. As a community, we need to be better prepared. And weekend before last, was it? 3 weekends ago. Councilor Trace and I went to C4, which is the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee retreat for 2 days, and it was a day of transportation. Boy, that was fun. And a day of affordable housing. And I walked away with so much information, pretty sobering information that somehow I'm going to put together and give to the rest of the council. But the biggest number for me was that 66% of the citizens that live in Gladstone are either low income down to severely low income. That's 66% of our people. What are we doing wrong? We can do better. So that's my challenge to everybody, is how can we make that number change? It's horrible. So that's all that I have. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I move that
adjourn.
we adjourn.
Second.
Motion was made by Counselor Reisner and seconded by Counselor Tracy to adjourn. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? passed. Meeting adjourned at 8:53 p.m.
We should render that stuff.